If I may put it, because I don't want to put it into the interview.
The expression means life will prevail, but we don't do anything. And I think the biggest thing in Zaporizzhia, there was a big attack.
Delete the message. No glide bomb is deleted.
It's Putin, and we should stop, and we need to stop this war of Putin's. And there's a camera there, so I don't ever need to look at that camera.
No, unless you want to upstage me, which you might. Yeah. Okay. Oh, the bloopers are there. Okay, let's start.
You forget, I used to work as a teacher of high school students.
You're good.
I know how to wind them up.
Sure. What? Clap. Clap? Okay, together? All right, let's get started. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are at Storytelling Ukraine, a podcast about fun stories of life, sad stories of war, real stories of people. My name is Alex Borovensky, and today I'm privileged to host Donna Frose, a traveler, a retired teacher, a volunteer, and one of the funniest person I've met today. Donna, welcome to Storytelling.
I noticed you said funniest persons today, and it's still fairly early in the day, so
I met quite a few.
You might meet someone funnier.
We'll see, I guess. But does it help? How do you finance your being here? Because you're not getting paid.
I'm not getting paid.
Is it you have the funds, or you getting finance for being here?
No, I retired and I have money.
No, it's just because with this amount of media coverage and everything, you can get, I don't know, sponsorship funding and everything. But you never wanted to, or?
Why would I take money for myself when it's money that could go to Ukraine?
Wow.
And it's like, so the arrangement we have with Magic Food Army is like we pay for our visas and stuff like that to come or travel here. They provide us a place to stay in Kyiv. They provide us a place to stay in Zaporizzhia. Now, the Russians found out about our base. We were staying on a base where there were soldiers. Yeah. And the Russians found it last winter. And so we had to switch bases. And so there was a period of about 6 months where the accommodation was not suitable for women and men to both be there. So it was just the guys that were down there. Like when they first got into the new dorm building, which was an old restaurant, they actually didn't even have a shower. Like it was a week or so, they were showering at the other base.
So, Donna, I know that you are not from Kyiv, right? What are you doing in Kyiv? How did I get you?
It's actually a long story. Okay. I am a history teacher. I retired now. I taught IB history to students, and I taught global politics and theory of knowledge, which is kind of a philosophy course. And one of the things that I always wanted my students to do is to apply the things that we learn from history, to apply what we know. And I came to Ukraine on holidays in 2012, and I fell in love with the place. Oh. And I didn't think I'd come back ever. And then in 2014, I was outraged, and we talked about this in my classes, and we talked about how, something needed to be done, and the way Russia was acting and breaking the democratic norms. And, I worked at a UN school the last 10 years in Vietnam, and the UN has certain ideals, and we talked a lot about the difference between what's written and what countries actually do and things like that. And in February 2022, I was just like, something needs to be done. And I had been teaching for nearly 35 years at that point. And as an international teacher, I had enough money to retire. And rather than teaching and just sort of padding my retirement fund and doing traveling, I decided to retire and come here to Ukraine and do something. So
you retired because of Ukraine and because of the invasion? Whoa.
Yes.
Guys, this is the person who actually lost her job voluntarily because of invasion of Russia. You're bad.
And so just the way the job cycles and things work, it was about a year and a half before I was actually able to get through everything and give the school the proper notice and things like that. And went looking for an organization that would be able to, that I would be able to do something with. At my age, I'm not going to be someone who picks up a gun and is on the front lines. That's kind of obvious. But I wanted to be able to do something. And I found Chef Zenya, who is a chef from here in Kyiv. He has a series of ramen shops here in the city. And he had created a charity organization called Magic Food Army. And they were making food for special forces. So providing nutritious, balanced meals. And I thought, okay, this is something I can do. I know how to wash dishes. I know how to cook a little bit. Anyway, a number of conversations and things like that. And I ended up on a plane here, and I spend most of my time down in Zaporizzhia. Got to make sure I don't put a Z in there. I have been instructed on that by one of my colleagues.
All right.
It's like, that was my Ukrainian lesson 2 days ago from one of the baristas at the coffee shop that chef runs. And so I spend most of the month down there, and then I have about a week and a half, 2 weeks off each month, usually. September was a bit of a different. I had 4 days that I was only back because we had a volunteer who had to leave because of family things, and so they were going to be short-staffed. So I covered for a week, and then we had some training days. But yeah, I'm here. I am helping prepare and make meals for Special Forces troops on the front line, and pack them and send them out. And in the time that I am in Kyiv, I am involved with the International Women's Club
IWC? Right.
Yeah, IWIC, which is an amazing group of women, and they do a lot of sort of social work. They've got a social program where they help different families here in the city. I work at a volunteer place on the left bank.
And cooking or different part?
It's cooking, but they're preparing dry packaged soups. We also make cookies, so I often, when I go in the morning, and if I wasn't here, I'd actually be there making galettes. That's where I was yesterday morning. And I take Ukrainian lessons, which are going very, very slowly. Do not ask me to speak Ukrainian.
You can say pryvit.
I can say pryvit. I can say dobryi.
Добрий ранок.
Добрий ранок. Pobachennia.
While we're on it, what is your favorite Ukrainian word as of now, if you have any?
There's not, well, I think my favorite Ukrainian expression is something that I can't actually pronounce. And it was something that President Zelenskyi said, I think it was not last Easter, the Easter before. And it's an expression, and when I translated it, and it's actually on some of my social media profiles, and the expression means life will prevail. And it really struck me because it's not just that we will win. It's that our lives and everything about them will last, and we will be successful, and that life is what will always win. And I thought there was a lot more deeper meaning in it when I Google translated it. I'm not sure if it really has that meaning in Ukrainian, but in my world and my understanding, it does.
And can you say it in Ukrainian?
No.
I love this Ukrainian. My favorite Ukrainian phrase.
My favorite Ukrainian phrase is saved in my phone in Ukrainian with a hashtag, and I just go copy, paste.
But is it життя переможе?
Say that again slowly.
Життя, life, життя переможе.
Yeah, так, that's it.
Well, it's like life will win.
Yeah.
But prevail is much more wider in meaning.
Prevail,
I love the interpretation. Zelensky kind of became this person who has lots of phrases that's used by people, like a walking meme in many senses.
He is, and I know there are varying opinions. I think Zelensky is much more popular outside of Ukraine necessarily than he is inside, but he has understood the international community and how to gain support and how to give phrases and ideas and things to the international community in order to garner that support for Ukraine. And so, in terms of his ability to present ideas, I think he's truly amazing.
Right. So, aside from Zelensky and myself, who is your favorite Ukrainian person these days?
My favorite Ukrainian person?
Not Zelensky and myself, but who else? It can be a simple person, like person you work with, person with a story, maybe.
I think it's not a person, it is a group of people. And I think the ladies that I work with here in Kyiv, packaging the dry soups and that, are truly an amazing group, that entire group. It's mostly women, there's some men as well, because every day they get up, the area that is doing this is not very high income, so it's always a struggle. They get everything donated, and they show up every day and they work all day in order to make cookies and soups and porridges so that they can send it out. And very often they're sending it out to the units that they have family that are in. And I'm always amazed at how much they do and how much of their heart goes into what they're doing.
Wow. Guys, you're amazing. You too.
And they rely on volunteers, and so my social media is sort of littered with promoting them here in Kyiv. The organization that I work mainly with and that my visa is with requires a much longer commitment. There are some people who are paid Ukrainian employees, and then there's the international volunteers, and it's much more complicated and involved. And it's an amazing organization, and they're also trying to raise money in order to build some new refrigerators. But just the scales of the operation and the difference of them is.
And what is the name of the organization?
Magic Food Army is
Magic Food Army.
Magic Food Army. Yeah.
So, guys, we will put the link to Magic Food Army in the description of the podcast. Make sure to click it, go in, support, join. It's important.
And if you're in Kyiv, I'm going to ask them to put the link into the ants, because if you've got 3 or 4 hours or 2 hours and you can use your hands, that's all you need to do. You just need to be willing. They would love to have your help as well.
Right. Hence the question, because I heard it from some volunteers, different experiences, that sometimes you come to Ukraine and you come to help Ukraine, and you get in this isolated community of other volunteers, expats, foreigners, and you're not really related to Ukrainians. So you help, but you're not really, immersed into the community, and you don't work with Ukrainians, and you used, and so on. What's your experience? Did you have cases like this, or what's your general experience?
No, I actually, when I am in Kyiv, I make a concerted effort to go out and find some English speakers, which is IWIC, in order to socialize and sort of have some normalcy in my life. In Zaporizzhia, I would say 80 to 90% of the time, there is no one I am working with that speaks any English whatsoever. And when I work at the ants, there's most days no one who speaks any English. There's a few phrases, so it's Google Translate. If on the weekends, there's usually 1 or 2 people who speak English, but it's all Ukrainians. So I literally work with nothing but Ukrainians. And am sort of trying to navigate the Ukrainian, but then also, especially in Zaporizzhia, the sort of that combined language of, yes, they're speaking Ukrainian, but when you can't find the word, the Russian or something gets emotional, the Russian comes out. And as I've learned a couple things in Ukrainian, I try and throw those words into what I'm saying when I understand things or things like that. And then they look at me like I have 2 heads because they don't understand what I said. We were sitting and we were talking about carrots or something. And I said, yeah, rozumію. And they're like, what did she say? And then one of the guys said, she said she understands.
Yeah, there's me. Yeah. Yeah. Also, from, well, again, my experience, sometimes, even before the invasion, the foreigners get this thing that I called my mom's attitude. Like, what do I get you? Do you want some food? Shall I give you more food? From Ukrainians to foreigners. You know, are you comfortable? Are you super comfortable? Wear a hat, 2 hats, and stuff. Did you have, are you treated like this by Ukrainians?
Not over the top. They, you know, they worry and take care, and but they do it to each other as well. Like it's no more, because I live in a dorm and there's no kitchen here in Kyiv. You know, they will send me food sometimes. You know, they'll check in on me if they haven't heard from me, or I said I was going to come work and I don't show up. Usually I've sent them a message just to make sure I'm all right. But I don't find it over the top or anything like that. But they do take care of everyone. I know with the ants here, we have an opportunity where, like, there was one time there was a lady, I think she'd fallen, she was older, and she had broken her arm. And so we did a little collection so that she had some money to make it through. With Magic Food Army, we've had a couple of the guys that work as cooks, and they're married, and their wives have had babies. And so we've done a collection so that we could, you know, give them something to start off well with the baby. Wow. You know, and it's like everyone sort of gives what they can afford, you know, so depending on what the different employees' incomes are. But it's bringing them all together, and it's not really any different than any place that I've worked. It's you take care of the people that you work with and that you volunteer with and that you have in your life. And it's just all part of that.
Wow. Talking about the places you worked, I said traveler in the beginning because I know about Vietnam. Right?
Yes, I spent the last 10 years of my career. But not only,
right? You also been to
Vietnam. Before that, I was living in Quito, Ecuador, and I was there for a number of years teaching at the school
¿Hablas
there.
español?
Hablo mi.
Como ucraniano.
Yeah. Because I've worked in all these different places, I understand more than I can speak. Before Ecuador, I'd spent 9 years in Kuwait. Before Kuwait, I was in Singapore. Before Singapore, I was in China. Before China, I was in the United Arab Emirates in a little city called Al Ain. So I spent about 12 years altogether in the Middle East and sort of the Gulf states. And yeah, the UAE was the first place. And so because I've spent basically 35 years living overseas, I've also traveled extensively.
Yeah. But it's your first war country you work at.
Well, not exactly. Kuwait wasn't exactly at peace because I wasn't there during the initial Iraqi invasion. I was actually in Canada, and then as they were driving the Iraqis out in 1990, that's when I took the job in the UAE. But then the 9 years that I did live in Kuwait was when the American troops came in and overthrew Saddam Hussein. So the country was evacuated. I remember having a great party at the Canadian embassy after the last flight had left. It's like, everyone should leave. It's like, okay, party at the embassy. Well, the ambassador's residence, actually, because some of us did stay. We had visas in our passports to get into Saudi if we needed, so we just head south. We didn't need them. We had air alarms, and it was very similar to some of the things that we have here. Not the length, not the extent. They did blow up one of the malls, and the Kuwaitis managed to get it open and running that evening, so that it was hit at like 3 a.m. because my brother called me. There was no alarm because the missile came in very low. He called and says, You at the mall? I'm like, it's the middle of the night. No, I'm not at the mall. Well, they just blew it up. Go check.
It doesn't exist. Go loot.
Yeah. My family has followed my adventures.
Do they worry? How do they?
I'm sure they do, but
Right.
It's just go. It's Donna.
Guys, here's the story I want to share with Donna and yours. That's the story of this place, because right now we're filming this podcast in the premises of ProEnglish Theatre of Ukraine, the one and only English-speaking theater, and it's in the basement. And the big invasion on Ukraine happened on 24th February 2022, the black date in the history of the world, I believe. And before this, all embassies issued this thing about the employees and the citizens should leave. So
Yes.
it was, I guess, sometimes a week, 2 weeks before the invasion, a month, people started leaving. Like, literally, you wouldn't see a foreigner in the streets of Kiev those days. And 2 days before the invasion, which we didn't know would happen, I decided to put up an English-speaking stand-up comedy in the premises of ProEnglish Theatre, because my idea was just to figure out who would come, and mostly foreigners would come to these things. And also I was serving beer, so foreigners would come. And guys, this place was crowded, filled with foreigners. It's like 40 people were here, all of them native speakers. And we had the nicest stand-up comedy 2 days before. I was the host. And I made the stupidest joke ever. I said, guys, you know what? In a couple days, probably there was rumor that Kiev is going to get bombed to a pulp. But no worries, because this is a bomb shelter. We're officially in underground premises, so we're not going to worry, haha. In 2 days, haha. And this place literally turns into bomb shelter, and we're hosting people there. Not so funny then, but now I remember it's like, you know, ironic how the world turns. Yeah. My question. Getting back, still, it is the country at full-scale war, and how does it affect your everyday life? Like, it's not a front line, Zaporizzhia. It's close to a front line zone.
Yeah, we're about 50 kilometers.
Yeah.
How does it affect? Well, you know that you've got that constant, there's going to be explosions and things like that. But I think it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you can get used to it and you become acclimatized to it. And so air raid sirens go off, and I have them muted on my phone. So I see them, but we don't do anything. And I think the biggest thing in Zaporizzhia, there was a big attack, and there were some people who were killed, and they had started to use the glide bombs. And there had been one apartment that had been hit. It was about 2.5 blocks away from where I stay, because I actually rent an apartment down there because they didn't have space at the dorm initially, and it wasn't ready. And so I just went, I'll get an apartment, whatever. And so it wasn't where everyone else stays. And then the next day I'm out, and I'm thinking, okay, air raid alarm, because you hear it. And I kind of look around, and I look at the people. No one reacts. And at all, which is not unusual. It's the same thing here in Kyiv.
Yeah.
And then I hear an explosion off towards where the dam is. And I look around. And it was quite a ways away, but it was very definitely an explosion. And no one even changed their pace. They had gotten that used to it. And so you get used to it. But then at the same time, there was one explosion. It hit a neighborhood, and there were a couple people killed. It was probably a few miles from where I work. And it was loud enough that we heard it inside the building where I work. And it was early in the morning. And the women are kind of like...
What is that?
And then they're like, oh, we should go into the shelter. Well, we don't really have a shelter. And then we're thinking, it's like, okay, what's the place that has more than one wall? Because you want 2 walls. Yeah. And then it was like, one of the ladies put her hand on the cooler door. I went, no, too cold. And then our day just continued as normal. I just thought it was funny, because I knew that when there are glide bombs coming, you get a different alert. And so it shows up normally you get a little red dot on the alert, and you get a green dot for the all clear. Well, we also get orange dots.
Which is?
Glide bombs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Glide
Yeah.
bombs. Wow.
Yeah.
We don't have
Because
here.
like on the alert, it'll tell you basically what it is.
Nice. We don't have it here in Kiev. It's only Shaheds, the drones.
Yeah, you don't get the glide bombs here.
Hey. Well, yes.
Kharkiv gets them. We get them.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other places that do, but Odessa, I think, is getting them now. But so you like, because they come on, like, they're muted, but I still get the alerts, and so they come on my phone, and they come to my watch, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Delete the message. No glide bomb is deleted.
Exactly.
Yeah, but guys, you should listen to these things really carefully, because there are simple rules that all of the world should learn about the two walls. Like the first wall takes the impact, second wall protects you from debris coming, or the glide bombs, alerts, and everything. Because if we don't stop Russia right now, it may come to your country. It's that simple.
Yep.
No. And it's not, I don't know, it's like, I don't want to sound like Zelensky, but it is the fact, it's simple fact.
Well, it is, and as a history teacher, like, that's one of the reasons that I was so passionate about, I need to do something, because Russia is breaking all of the norms that are part of what was set up in the world and how the world was going to run after World War II. And this idea that nations are sovereign and that you don't invade your neighbors. And he just continues to break it. And just like Hitler did in World War II, it's like, well, I can push a little more, I can push a little more, I can push a little more. And the students I taught history to, we talked about appeasement. And we talked about, you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. And that's what Putin is. Like, if he is successful here, the Balkans are next. Western Europe is next, like Poland, and it will continue, and he will continue grabbing, and his successors will continue grabbing land until he is stopped. And I think with Ukraine, what I saw is in every other place where he had been attacking, in Chechnya and in Syria, there wasn't the ability for the people to stand up and stop Russia.
Yeah.
And Ukraine, with their own resources and with the help of the international community in terms of materiel and weapons, there is an opportunity to stop Putin and to stop this and say, no, we as a world do not believe in totalitarianism. We do not believe in authoritarianism. We believe in liberal democracy. We believe people have a right to say who they're going to be ruled by. And so when the history of this century is written, this is going to be one of those big turning points. And how it ends is still to be written, but needed to be part of it.
I have this analogy pretty much from the beginning, that it's like in school, when you're a small kid and there is a big bully with a bat coming to hit you, and then you start fighting back all of a sudden with all the power and with all your anger and dignity and what you have, and somehow you manage. But then he comes back again, and then your friends, they give you the gloves, and you start hit back better. But we need a shocker. We need an electric shocker so this fucker never, he should drop the bat. But now a trickier question, because Putin and Russia. And I know that you've been to St. Petersburg, you traveled to Russia, you've been there.
To Moscow,
I've been too. I had a Russian girlfriend at some point of my life. And everything.
I don't think you can be Ukrainian and not have had some kind of connection to Russia, because it was all part of the Soviet Union, and there's that heritage that is there.
But
the Ukrainians have kept their identity, and they've struggled so hard, even with like Stalin and Holodomor and everything that was done to pull that away. And Russia has done that to many different regions within the former Soviet Union. But it was especially brutal here in Ukraine.
So hence the attitude right now, for me personally, and many of my friends, and especially my military friends, and not only, it's like there is a black hole. Russia doesn't exist for us. It's this big orc territory that sends not people, but kind of like creatures that torture and devour and rape and murder and plunder. But it's like we don't see it, we don't perceive it as, you know, as the territory filled with people. And I know it's a wrong attitude, I know it's dehumanizing, but I believe that some time, some quality time should pass. The war should be won, stop, retribution, and then we'll slowly start healing it back into. For now, it's like that. What's your attitude?
I understand what you mean. This, and there's been lots of analogies that have been done to the Lord of the Rings series and things like that.
Lord of the Rings. And Star
Which
Wars.
I love. I love the Lord of the Rings. But yes, it is dehumanizing, and there are Russians. But it goes back to when the war first started, I had to do something. But I was in Vietnam, and so I had limited ability to do things here. And so I'm sure you're familiar with the online group Anonymous. They started an initiative where they had a program that would basically pull numbers from Russia on WhatsApp. And so you could just like click the wheel, you'd get a number for some random person in Russia, you didn't know who they were, anything about them, and you could send them messages on WhatsApp. And so you'd send them messages, it's like, do you know what your government is doing? And so I'm like using Google Translate and sending these messages in Russian, and I'm sending photos and things that were in the news. And
wow.
My account got locked briefly. I had to get it locked because someone reported me.
Well, yeah.
And many times you got no response. Sometimes you would get a response, and you'd end up in these conversations, which, you know, they were Google Translate, but never did I have anyone that I spoke to through WhatsApp that were like, yeah, we know it's wrong, but we have no way, we don't know what to do. It was always like apathy, or no, the Ukrainians are worthless and we need to take them. And, you know, you heard what they did in the Donbass. It's like, no, you guys are so stupid. It's like,
right.
You know, get a VPN.
Finally, there's some freedom.
VPN.
You can read.
You know, the Malaysian airliner flight that was shot down by the Russians. They like, so what I took away from that experience was that it didn't matter how many people, and I mean, there's probably 100 phone numbers, 1,000 phone numbers, maybe even, that I was like sending these messages to. I'd sit there in the weekend and I'd be like just sending messages out, is that the Russian people, the people of Russia didn't care. They support what is going on. And I see that even, like there was such great hope for Navalny, Alexei Navalny, I think that's his name, who died, and you know his wife. And yet, in an interview, when she's asked about Ukraine, it's like, oh, it's Putin, and we should stop, you know, and we need to stop this war of Putin's. But when asked directly, how do you do that? It's not about supporting Ukraine. She just dodges the question, as did Navalny.
And Navalny got questions about Crimea.
Yeah,
and like, yes.
And I mean, I know there's a lot more things, and there's probably much more that I don't fully understand because I don't have the language skills. But from what I've read, there's, there needs to be some time. There needs to be some separation. You know, and yes, we do need to remember that the Russians aren't just orcs, but what the experience on the front lines and the shooting of the prisoners of war, that's how they're acting.
Yeah. Your story about messaging and the social media brought me to this. In the beginning of invasion, there was kind of like very interesting moment when all Ukraine was shocked with what's going on. It was unthinkable. It still is. But there was kind of official allowing us to curse. in social media. We could. And Facebook didn't block. It was allowed like to say, fuck you Russians, fuck you Putin, fuck you, you know, this. And we did. Like it was official language of, you know, defense, the curse words. And I kind of like this moment because it gives you tremendous freedom. Hence the question, what curse words do you know in Ukrainian? If you know any, and could you say those? This is kind of podcast we have. Storytelling Ukraine. Fun stories of life.
Because most of the curse words that I have learned down in Zaporizzhia. Most of them have been Russian.
Yes, totally obscene language.
And so my understanding from my Ukrainian teacher is that...
Your teacher teaches you that?
Oh yeah, we talk about it.
Okay.
Good teachers will talk about anything. So Russian curse words tend to have a very sexual orientation, sexual content, whereas Ukrainian cursing tends to have a very much wishing you bad luck and situations. So I don't actually know any Ukrainian, and I will not say any of the Russian ones. Just a warning that if you hear a word that starts with a BL,
yes,
probably it's not going to be something that you want to say in front of polite company.
Blin. Blin.
Blin is an exception. Yes.
Blin is pancake.
Blin is pancake.
Blin. Well, yeah.
That's an exception.
But it's also a euphemism, you know, for that word. We use it a lot.
I was told that by my Ukrainian teacher.
It's basically when you, like, subconsciously, we were talking about this before the podcast, when you, something happens fast, you react in your native language.
Yeah.
So when I hit my toe, I would say, blin, ow. That's blin, you know, that's what I would say. Or maybe
that's not.
Or maybe that word.
That's I don't say the polite version of it.
Damn it. Storytelling in Ukraine, when you don't say. All right.
Yeah, no.
Yes. Okay.
I work in a kitchen. The language is colorful.
Yes, and the food affects, I mean, it affects the food, so it's important. Yes. Anton. What is it? Oh, our cameraman is gone. Guys, we're alone. We can do whatever now. Yeah, but actually, yes.
Dancing.
Oh, no, serious question. So, question actually, like, this podcast, guy, by the way, guys, this podcast was originated by Serhii Tiupa, a good friend of mine and a great interpreter that interprets like the ministers and so on. He's a great guy. And his idea was always to bring foreigners who live in Ukraine somehow and who love Ukraine, and for them to like ask why. And he's a great guy, and I love this whole idea. And now, like, I'm a host of the whole story. It's my first podcast, by the way, that I'm hosting. Yeah. So I'm thrilled. But anyhow, Sergey had this questions, and I love these questions. He always asks in the podcast. I want to keep it. So the first question is, from your experience of being in Ukraine, what is the thing that the whole world gets wrong about Ukraine? The perception of the world about Ukraine and Ukrainians, but this is wrong. And you know it because you are here.
I think the thing that they get wrong is what they get wrong with every country that they look at. They create a stereotype of this is the Ukrainian, and I think in the show that you put on Once Upon a Time in Ukraine about the Ukrainian refugees, there's this stereotype that you have to fit, you have to be patriotic, you have to do all of these things. Ukraine is made up, just like every country, of a whole variety of different people who speak different languages, who have different histories, but who all have one passion, which is Ukraine. And that you need to remember that there's that diversity. And that when someone doesn't act like that stereotypical Ukrainian that you think should exist, that's all right. It's because they have diversity, and as part of that diversity is their strength. And Ukraine has all the problems that every modern country has. They have homelessness. They have people with mental illness. They have people who are passionate about the war. They have people who aren't as passionate about the war. It's a country like any other country, and creating that stereotype and then getting angry at people because they don't fit that stereotype, I think, is the thing that people get wrong the most often.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Right. I have another one, but before this, I'm going to call into the studio Anton. Come here.
Hello, Anton.
Hello, Anton. Guys, this is our wonderful cameraman, Anton Dmytro, who comes into the spot. Yes, Anton, can I ask you something, like secretly, from Donna? Huh? Secret message to Anton. He's gonna go, then he'll come back with surprise story. But before he goes back, yes. Well, you know, storytelling.
Yeah, he's looking for Sasha.
Like in Once Upon a Time. Yeah. No, but I have the second question also from Serhii. And that's the thing. Now, what is the thing that Ukrainians get wrong about ourselves? What we think we are, but we're not. From your experience of working with us, talking to us, sharing food with us, everything.
I think that's a very difficult question because, and I'm going to refer back to my answer to the previous question of everyone is different. And different people will see different things and get different things wrong. And so you've asked me to create a stereotype of Ukrainians. But I think the thing that I see most often is although there's this sense of resilience, and we're going to get through this, there's a sense of Ukrainians are getting tired. They're getting tired and they're doubting that world support is going to be there. And I think, and maybe it's just me hoping that world support will be there. The U.S. elections are coming up. I really hope they turn out a specific way. I'm Canadian, so I have absolutely no say in it. But I think the U.S. needs to make a stand with their votes. And so if you're American, I hope you're out there voting.
Yes. Harris, you mean?
Yes. Oh, God. Yes.
Guys, you got the message. Okay. Anton, back to the studio with the prize stuff. You know, usually we have a pretty lady doing this, but now there's Anton. Okay, woohoo! So, black or white? Make a choice. Black or white? Black.
Black.
Yes.
You're asking me?
There you go. Yes, you were talking anonymous, but maybe what is this? It's more anonymous, no?
No.
Okay, then I'll have the white one. All right, yes, and let's have our message, whatever, to the camera, really close, and we are anonymous. And our message to you guys is what?
Our message to Anonymous?
Yes, from Anonymous. We are anonymous. Don't forget we are.
We are.
Nobody knows who we are. We have masks on. We are anonymous, you know?
We are anonymous.
We are anonymous.
We are anonymous.
Yes.
Putin, you're going down.
Putin, you're going down.
You're going down.
We know where you are. We have your geolocation.
You will lose.
You're gonna lose. We will put your naked photos in the Instagram and everybody will laugh at you. Yes, Putin. Good. Yes, but let's finish. I guess we have enough to cut stuff. But my favorite part, I promise you, you're not going to escape it, Donna. So it's Ukrainian. So you refused very diplomatically to say curse words. You said pryvit and dobryi, and that's it. But now I really want you and need you to read Ukrainian language. Yes, if you need to get the glasses, well, let's get the glasses. You will have one.
I can actually.
Okay,
As
two
long as
things.
you don't mind me holding the book up in front of my face.
And here, guys, we're holding a book called
Червона, Kniga.
Kniga.
Червона
Kniga, which means?
The red book.
Yes, guys,
And
you
it
know
is
why it's
a
called Red Book? Because it's red, yes. And
It
it's
is
a book
red.
It's a book of poetry of Dmytro Lazutkin, who is a prominent Ukrainian poet. Last year, he got a Shevchenko Prize in literature, which is kind of like a Nobel Prize in Ukraine in literature. And he's a military, and he's a spokesman for the Ministry of Defense. Big guy, great guy. I know him in person, and he writes wonderful poetry. Can you open any page and read just a couple lines from this?
I'm looking for something easy.
Yes, Lazutkin, get ready. She's gonna butcher it.
Yeah, there's nothing easy in here.
It's poetry, excuse me. Okay, maybe just one line, just one word. Yes.
У Serhii ночи зиви придинка.
Yes.
Prudinka.
Сюди. Yeah.
Sudi. Rivnomirini. Rivnomirini. Stiskania. Okay, now read it properly.
I will. I'll try. Oh my God, it's not easy. What's the one you've chosen? Yeah, it's also. У серці ночі живе пружинка. Туди-сюди, рівномірне стискання.
See, when you read it, it sounds Ukrainian because it flows.
I am Ukrainian.
It flows. You get the language and things fit together. When I read it, I sound like a kindergarten child.
But it's a beautiful poetry. It says, in the heart of the night, there is a spiral. And the spiral goes here and there, and it, what do you call this thing?
Grabs.
It grabs itself evenly. He means the heart, and it lives in the heart of the night. It's, yeah. All right, okay. But this one, I'm going to help you with, because this is here, and that's important. So that's the word. I'll help, because it's a long one. And it's in cursive, by the way. Cursive, which is...
Yes, that's what I was going to point out.
So it goes with відродження.
Відродження.
Yes, very good. Відродження.
I'm not reading it, I'm repeating what you said.
Відродження. It's like Zaporizzhia, in a way, which is very tricky. Відродження.
Відродження.
Yeah, do you have an idea what it means? Відродження?
No.
It's like both revival and renaissance.
Oh, okay.
It means, because відродження means when you go give birth again and you live again.
And zenya is...
Żenia means like it makes a noun out of verb. It's a suffix that makes a noun. Yes, like насіння
Ukrainian is a
відродження.
difficult language.
It is, but very beautiful, very beautiful. So anyways, відродження. And the meaning, it's here, and the meaning I wear it today because it's a reference to, probably you know the story when in the 30s of last century, there was the whole bunch of famous, prominent Ukrainian poets and writers, and all of them were taken to Gulag and shut down and tortured and killed. And the whole thing is called розстріляне відродження, shot renaissance. And now this hoodie says only відродження, because renaissance is possible.
Yes.
And no matter how many, no, it does matter. In spite of how many people get killed, how many artists get killed, there always will be people who will come to help Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like Donna, like other people. There will be this resilience in spite of all the tiredness and despair of Ukrainians. There will be still feeling it's our land. Yeah, and oh my God, we're finishing on a very beautiful note.
As we should.
As we should. Yeah, guys.
Because there is hope. Life will prevail.
Life will prevail. That's so beautiful. Thank you very much.
And the resilience of the Ukrainian people is truly amazing.
Life will prevail. Життя переможе. Watch Storytelling Ukraine podcast. Support us if you wish. There is the links to Patreon down there in description. There are links to both organizations Donna work with. Stay focused on Ukraine. We have stories to tell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow! That's so... Oh my God, can I hug you?
Yes, you can.
That's so cool.